There is a drill on the wall of a small workshop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It weighs 5 pounds. It fits in one hand. It runs on a series-type motor built by Westinghouse, and it can drill a quarter-inch hole in steel without a second grip, without a stand, without an assistant bracing the work. In 1918, that is not a tool. That is a miracle. Every portable drill before it weighs between 15 and 40 pounds. Every portable drill before it requires 2 hands, a support arm, or a fixed mounting bracket. The men working Ford's assembly lines carry 40-pound drills the way other men carry furniture. Albert Peterson looks at those men. He looks at their backs and their shoulders, and the way they rotate their entire bodies just to reposition a drill. He looks at the time lost, the injuries accumulated, the sheer grinding inefficiency of it, and he builds something else, the hole shooter. 5 pounds, 1 hand, a quarter-inch of cutting capacity in a tool that fits in a coat pocket. Henry Ford's engineers test it. They want it. Within a decade, the company built around that drill will be destroyed by fire, then rebuilt, then sold again, then sold a third time, then sold a fourth time. And somewhere inside every sale, every boardroom, every leveraged buyout and strategic divestment and corporate restructuring, the tool keeps getting better. This is the story of Milwaukee Tool, the brand that survived being sold 4 times in 30 years. The brand that went from $500 million in revenue and a reputation as your grandfather's choice to the fastest growing professional power tool company in the world. The brand that a Hong Kong conglomerate purchased in 2005 and decided, against every prevailing logic of corporate finance, to invest in rather than strip. It does not happen by accident. It does not happen by luck. It happens because of a reciprocating saw introduced in 1951, a right-angle drill introduced in 1970, a battery platform launched in 2008, and a series of decisions made by people who understood the difference between owning a tool company and running one. The beginning is not Milwaukee. The beginning is a fire. Albert Peterson and Albert Siebert formed the A.H. Peterson Company in 1922. They have the hole shooter. They have a customer base. They have momentum. And in 1923, a factory fire destroys all of it. The building is gone. The equipment is gone. The inventory is gone. Siebert buys the remaining assets at auction. He incorporates a new company in 1924. He calls it Milwaukee Electric Tool Corporation. That name will matter. It will matter for a century. In the early years, Milwaukee survives on repair work. The city it is named for is a manufacturing city, a foundry city, a city where men make things from metal, and those things break and need to be fixed. Milwaukee Tool learns its customers by fixing their tools. They learn which drives strip too easily, and which gearboxes run hot, and which materials fatigue under hard use. They take that knowledge and they build it back into new products. It is not a glamorous origin. It is how the best tool companies are always built. You learn where the failures are. You eliminate them. By 1930, Milwaukee Electric Tool earns equipment specification ratings from the United States Navy. That rating is not a marketing stamp. It is a procurement standard. It means the Navy has tested Milwaukee tools against defined performance requirements and certified them for service. It means the tools do not fail. The Great Depression is brutal for manufacturing. Milwaukee survives it the same way it survived its first decade, by being indispensable to the people who build things for a living. A tool that saves time, that is reliable, that does not send a mechanic or a fitter back to the supplier, is a tool that survives an economic collapse. The Second World War brings Milwaukee into military aircraft production. The company scales, learns volume, and when the war ends, it returns to civilian industrial supply with a decade of hard manufacturing experience embedded in its engineering. It is a company with depth. It is also, at this point, still primarily a drill company. That changes in 1951. Jerome Schnettler and Edward Risto are Milwaukee engineers. In 1951, they introduce a tool that does not quite fit any existing category. It is not a circular saw. It is not a jigsaw. It is not a hacksaw. It is a self-contained, electrically driven reciprocating mechanism, a blade driven back and forth at high speed, capable of cutting through wood, metal, plaster, pipe, and practically everything a tradesperson encounters on a construction or demolition site. They call it the Sawzall. The name is a portmanteau. It saws all. The mechanics of the name are blunt and honest, which is appropriate because the mechanics of the tool are blunt and honest. A reciprocating blade, a powerful motor, a grip, and a trigger. You point it at something and you cut through it. Before the Sawzall, cutting through a wall stud in an existing structure requires marking the line, positioning a handsaw, and working your arm back and forth with enough precision not to damage the surrounding structure. If the stud contains a nail or two, you stop, extract the nail, and continue. If the wall contains a pipe, you switch tools. If the wall contains conduit, you switch tools again. The Sawzall does not care what the wall contains. You insert the correct blade and you cut. Metal cutting blade for the pipe, wood cutting blade for the stud, bimetal blade for whatever turns out to be in there. One tool, one trigger, one pass. Plumbers take to it immediately. Electricians take to it immediately. The demolition trades take to it with a kind of enthusiasm that borders on devotion. Within a few years, the word Sawzall begins to appear on job sites as a generic term, the way Hoover appears in British homes and Kleenex appears in American medicine cabinets. It does not matter who made the reciprocating saw you are holding. If it reciprocates, it is a Sawzall. That genericization is a double-edged thing. On one side, it means Milwaukee has defined a category. The tool is so closely associated with the brand that the brand and the tool become the same word. On the other side, it means competitors making inferior reciprocating saws benefit from the terminology Milwaukee created. The plumber on a job site in Birmingham or Brisbane who asks for a Sawzall is not necessarily asking for a Milwaukee. He is asking for a category. Milwaukee made the category. Jerome Schnettler understands what the Sawzall means. He understands it well enough to rise through the company on the strength of it, eventually becoming Milwaukee's president by 1983. He runs a company built, by this point, on two foundations, the Sawzall and the whole Hawg. The whole Hawg arrives in 1970. It is not the first right-angle drill Milwaukee has made. The company introduced its first half-inch right-angle drill in 1949, letting electricians and plumbers drill in spaces too tight for a standard chuck-forward tool. But the whole Hawg is something different. It is high torque. It is designed for drilling large holes through studs and joists, the kind of holes an electrician runs conduit through, the kind of holes a plumber runs pipes through. In residential and commercial rough-in work, the whole Hawg is not a convenient option. It is the only option. An electrician running wiring through a new house drills dozens of holes per day. Each hole goes through a 2x4 or a 2x6 or a joist, and each hole is around 1.5 inches in diameter, sometimes more. A standard drill cannot manage that diameter in a right-angle configuration without straining the motor or the wrist, or both. The whole Hawg manages it. The torque is there. The right-angle geometry is there. The grip is there. The whole Hawg is also not a tool a homeowner needs. A homeowner might drill 4 holes in a stud wall in a year. An electrician drills 40 before lunch. This is the decision Milwaukee has already made by 1970, and it will define the company for the next 50 years. Milwaukee tools are not for the weekend project. They are for the man who uses a tool for 8 hours and needs it to work for 8 hours. The DIY market is large. The professional market is reliable. Milwaukee chooses reliable. In that choice, a character is established. Milwaukee tools are used by electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, mechanical contractors. The trades that build the infrastructure people live inside. Not the trades that finish the surfaces, the infrastructure trades, the rough-in trades. By the early 1970s, Milwaukee Electric Tool Corporation has a brand identity that most companies spend decades trying to construct and never quite achieve. It has the Sawzall. It has the whole Hawg. It has a reputation built one verified specification, one Navy rating, one job site conversation at a time. And then, in 1975, someone else buys it. Amstar Corporation is a sugar refiner. It makes Domino sugar. This is not a metaphor. It is a fact. The company that acquires Milwaukee Electric Tool in 1975 or 1976, the records are split by a year, is primarily in the business of refining and packaging cane sugar. Why a sugar company buys a professional power tool brand falls somewhere between corporate diversification strategy and the particular logic of American conglomerate building in the 1970s, when holding companies accumulated unrelated businesses the way some people accumulate furniture. The Wisconsin operation in Brookfield remains, but the weight of manufacturing is beginning to shift south toward lower labor costs, away from the industrial Midwest it came from. The logic is simple. Production costs first, everything else second. Then KKR buys Amstar. Kohlberg Kravis Roberts is the defining private equity firm of the 1980s. In 1984, KKR acquires Amstar, the sugar company and the power tool company, together for $465 million. They do it with $52 million of equity. The rest is debt. This is what a leveraged buyout looks like from the inside. The acquired company now carries the debt used to acquire it. KKR sells Amstar in under 3 years for $700 million, a profit of $232 million on their original equity position, an 81.5% compounded annual return. These numbers come from Carol Loomis Famous' reporting in Fortune in 1988. Milwaukee Tool passes, as part of this transaction, to a Merrill Lynch Capital Partners leveraged buyout partnership in 1986. Consider what has happened. In 11 years, Milwaukee Electric Tool has gone from an independent company with a century of professional tool manufacturing behind it to a line item in 2 consecutive leveraged buyouts. It has been the collateral for debt transactions executed by people with no interest in power tools and no relationship with the trades that use them. The brand is intact. The products still work, but the ownership is purely financial. Merrill Lynch Capital Partners holds Milwaukee for roughly 9 years. Under their ownership, the company does build. The Super Sawzall launches in 1991 after 2 years of engineering development. It carries a built-in counterbalance to reduce the vibration that travels up a tradesperson's arm during extended cutting. A gear-protecting clutch. 5 patents. It is, by objective measure, a genuinely better tool than what it replaces. The company is profitable. The products are strong. But underneath the performance, Milwaukee is beginning to look like a brand being managed rather than developed. There is a difference. Management preserves. Development builds forward. In 1995, Atlas Copco of Stockholm, Sweden, acquires Milwaukee for approximately $550 million. It is described at the time as the largest acquisition in Atlas Copco's history. It gives the Swedish industrial group more than 20% of the United States professional and industrial electric tool market. Atlas Copco is a serious industrial company. It makes compressors, mining equipment, industrial pneumatic tools. It is not a financial buyer looking for a return multiple. It is a manufacturer buying manufacturing capacity and market position. Under Atlas Copco, Milwaukee introduces its first lithium-ion power tools in 2005. The V28 line, running on 28-volt lithium-ion batteries, is an industry first. The direction is correct. The technology is real. But something else is also happening during the Atlas Copco years. The Brookfield, Wisconsin plant, the original Milwaukee operation, employs around 700 people in the 1990s. By 2004, it employs fewer than 400. The last Wisconsin manufacturing, saw blade production, leaves for Mississippi in 2004. The physical presence of Milwaukee Tool in Milwaukee, Wisconsin shrinks, while the southern footprint grows and the brand identity remains intact. Atlas Copco eventually arrives at the same conclusion its predecessors did, expressed with slightly more strategic precision. The electric tool business is stable and profitable, with significant market share, particularly in North America, but it is far from the group's desired position of being globally number 1 or number 2. The synergies between the electric tool business and the rest of Atlas Copco are limited in distribution, in manufacturing, and in product development. This is a company explaining why it is selling something it should not have bought in the first place. In 2005, Atlas Copco sells Milwaukee Electric Tool to Tektronic Industries. Milwaukee has now been sold 4 times in 30 years by a sugar company, a Wall Street buyout firm, a Wall Street buyout firm's successor transaction, and a Swedish industrial conglomerate. Each sale has been structured for the financial benefit of the seller. Each sale has left the brand operational and the products competitive. Each sale has also left Milwaukee one step further from the kind of committed, long-term, engineering-first ownership that built it in the first place. Before we discuss what happens next, consider what happened to the other brands that walked a similar path. Porter Cable is an American woodworking tool company with a history as old and as serious as Milwaukee's. Owned by Rockwell, then Pentair, it is acquired by Black & Decker in 2004 and absorbed into what will become Stanley Black & Decker. Under that ownership, Porter Cable is pushed steadily down market. New product development slows. Marketing diminishes. The brand survives as a price point option in mass market retail, a label attached to tools that carry none of the engineering identity the name was built on. Craftsman is the Sears house brand, one of the most recognized tool names in American consumer history, built on the promise that if it ever breaks, we will replace it, no questions asked. When Sears collapses, Craftsman goes with it. Stanley Black & Decker acquires the brand in 2017 for a sum approaching $900 million in net present value. Stanley promises a new American factory, a revival, a renaissance. The tools continue to move down market. Irwin Tools has 139 years of history in hand and cutting tools, when it too passes to Stanley Black & Decker as part of a nearly $2 billion deal in 2017. Like Porter Cable, like Craftsman, held, not developed. Stihl, the American circular saw heritage brand, is owned by Bosch from 1996 until 2017, when Bosch sells it to the Chinese company Chirvan. For its entire Bosch period, Stihl is positioned for entry-level retail. When it goes to Chirvan, it is an entry-level brand, and it stays there. These are not obscure companies. These are the names on tool belts across 3 continents for most of the 20th century. And the pattern is consistent. Financial acquisition followed by market position optimization, followed by brand erosion. The products still exist. The names still appear. But the engineering identity, the character that made tradespeople trust these brands in the first place, that is gone. Milwaukee in 2005 is at the beginning of that same road. Tektronic Industries turns left. Tektronic Industries is founded in Hong Kong in 1985. In 2005, when it acquires Milwaukee, it already owns Ryobi's North American power tool license, AEG Elektrowerkzeuge, Homelight, and Hoover. It is a Hong Kong-based conglomerate that makes tools and floor care equipment and outdoor power products. It is not, on the surface, the kind of ownership that inspires confidence in the trades. The acquisition price is $626.6 million. For that price, TTI gets Milwaukee Electric Tool, AEG's European electric tool operation, and Drabo carbide drill bits. TTI pays a fair multiple for a brand that has been competently managed and inadequately invested in for 30 years. The first signal that something different is happening comes in January 2007. Tektronic appoints Steve Richman as president of Milwaukee Tool. Richman inherits a company generating less than $500 million in revenue, a workforce, a product line, and a brand reputation all intact, but none of them growing. He will later describe what he finds as your grandfather's brand. This is not flattery. This is a diagnosis. Milwaukee is respected by experienced tradespeople of a certain age, and largely unknown to the generation entering the trades behind them. It is a brand aging with its customers. Richmond also inherits a decision already made by TTI's leadership. Milwaukee is the professional brand. Ryobi is the consumer brand. These two brands within TTI's portfolio will not compete with each other. They will not share a product roadmap. They will not cannibalize each other's market position. Milwaukee will receive dedicated research and development, dedicated engineering, and dedicated manufacturing investment. Ryobi will receive its own equivalent. This segmentation is the exact opposite of how conglomerates typically manage tool portfolios. The typical approach is to consolidate, share platforms, share battery standards, share factories, find the synergies, cut the costs. TTI does not do this. It runs Milwaukee and Ryobi as genuinely separate businesses, with genuinely separate identities. The next decision is the one that changes everything. In 2008, Milwaukee Tool launches 2 cordless battery platforms simultaneously, the M12, the M18. The M12 runs on 12-volt lithium-ion batteries. The M18 runs on 18-volt lithium-ion batteries. Both are built on a principle that Milwaukee states explicitly and enforces consistently. Every tool that runs on M18 today will run on every M18 battery we make in the future. Every battery you buy today will power every M18 tool we release in the next 10 years. This promise is not standard practice in the power tool industry. DeWalt, Milwaukee's primary competitor for the professional market, has changed battery standards multiple times over the course of its cordless tool history. Customers who invested in one generation of DeWalt cordless tools have discovered, over time, that their batteries do not fit the new tools and their new batteries do not fit the old ones. This is not unique to DeWalt. It is how most power tool companies have historically managed the transition between battery technologies. New chemistry, new form factor, new platform, old tools become boat anchors. Milwaukee commits to not doing this. The M18 platform of 2008 is forward compatible. When Milwaukee introduces the Fuel sub-platform in 2012, those brushless motor tools run on the same M18 batteries as the tools introduced 4 years earlier. When Milwaukee introduces high-output batteries in 2018, those cells deliver more power to every M18 tool ever built. When Milwaukee introduces red lithium forge in 2023, same thing. The electrician who buys his first M18 drill in 2010 does not throw away his batteries in 2015 when he adds a circular saw. He does not throw away his batteries in 2018 when he adds an impact driver and a reciprocating saw. He adds tools to a system he has already invested in. Each new tool makes the system more valuable. Each battery he already owns becomes more capable as Milwaukee improves the chemistry. This is not planned obsolescence. It is the exact opposite of planned obsolescence. Consider what it means from the contractor's perspective. You are a plumbing contractor in Manchester or Milwaukee or Melbourne. You run a crew of 6. Each person on your your crew carries batteries for their cordless tools. If your battery platform is M18, every battery on every belt is interchangeable with every tool on every belt. A battery pulled from one person's drill can run another person's pipe cutter. A battery pulled from a pack-out case can run a shop light, or a press tool, or a pipe threader. The whole system shares its energy. DeWalt's 20-volt Max platform competes directly. It has a broad tool range. It has a serious professional user base. It has a marketing presence that is, if anything, larger than Milwaukee's. But by 2015, Milwaukee has built something DeWalt has not built. A platform so deep, so specifically tuned to the MEP trades, that switching costs have become genuinely painful for the tradesperson who considers leaving. An electrician who has bought into M18 over 5 years might carry 8 or 10 or 12 batteries. She might have M18 tools for drilling, cutting, impact driving, cable pulling, conduit bending, crimping, pressing. Every tool on her belt or in her van is optimized for one battery standard. The decision to switch brands is not a decision to buy a new drill. It is a decision to scrap an ecosystem and rebuild it from the ground up. That is the moat. The battery is the moat. By 2012, Milwaukee's fuel platform is live. The technology behind it is 3 Milwaukee-designed and Milwaukee-manufactured components working in concert: the PowerState brushless motor, the red lithium battery pack, the RedLink Plus intelligence system, hardware and software embedded in the tool, the battery, and the charger, allowing all 3 to communicate in real time. Before a brushless motor, an electric tool motor uses physical carbon brushes that press against a rotating commutator to transfer current. The brushes wear, the commutator wears. The friction generates heat. The motor has hard physical limits on efficiency and on the speed at which it can be made to run. A brushless motor has no brushes, no contact, no wear surface, no commutator. The motor is smaller, lighter, and runs cooler. It is driven by electronics rather than friction, which means power delivery can be optimized for the specific demands of the application. A brushless drill driver boring a 2-inch hole through hardwood pulls more current than the same tool driving a wood screw. The electronics read the load and adjust the power accordingly. The tradesperson holding a fuel tool feels this as control. The tool does not bog down under load. It does not generate the same heat during extended use. The battery lasts longer because the electronics are not fighting inefficiency, and the motor lasts longer than the tool itself. Milwaukee also does something unusual in the industry. It designs and manufactures its own battery packs and its own motors in-house, rather than sourcing them from common suppliers. The benefit is that Milwaukee's battery chemistry is proprietary. Its cell-level monitoring is proprietary, and its motors are tuned specifically for its own tools. The patents that come out of Milwaukee's early lithium-ion work, filed between 2005 and 2007, are significant enough that competing tool companies pay licensing fees to use the underlying intellectual property. A tool company that collects royalties from the companies it competes against on the job site. Milwaukee in 2015 launches OneKey, the first digital management platform for professional tools. Tools walk off job sites. They get left behind, borrowed by other crews, mixed into other people's vans. A drill worth $300 fits in a large jacket pocket. A battery charger worth $150 can disappear between Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning. OneKey puts each tool on a network. Each registered M18 or M12 fuel tool has a Bluetooth chip that communicates with a phone. The app shows where each tool was last connected. It shows when each tool was last used. It allows the foreman to flag a tool as stolen, which triggers a lockout, rendering the tool inoperable until the registered owner removes it. For the individual tradesperson, this is inventory control. For a large contractor managing multiple crews across multiple sites, it is operations infrastructure. Milwaukee is no longer selling drills. It is selling a management system that happens to include drills. In 2017, Milwaukee introduces Packout, a modular, stackable, interlocking storage system built to a single-dimensional standard, so that every unit in the line connects to every other unit. Toolboxes, organizers, coolers, shop storage, wall mounts, rated to 250 pounds of stacked load. Because Packout is dimensionally standardized, the contractor who buys cases in 2017 can add to the same system in 2025 without replacing a single piece. In 2019, Milwaukee introduces MX Fuel, a third battery platform built for heavy equipment that has historically been corded or gas-powered. Core drills that bore through concrete slabs, breakers that demolish floors, pipe threaders, concrete vibrators, tower lights that illuminate entire job sites. These are not tools that run on an 18-volt platform. They require more sustained power than any hand tool battery can deliver. MX Fuel addresses that gap. The M12 covers compact precision tools in tight spaces. The M18 covers the full professional hand tool range. MX Fuel covers the heavy, stationary, and semi-stationary equipment. Together, the three platforms cover the complete working environment of an electrician, plumber, or mechanical contractor from the moment they park their van to the moment they leave the site. That is not a product line. That is an ecosystem. Steve Richman is promoted to Chief Executive Officer of Tektronic Industries in May 2024. He has run Milwaukee Tool for 17 years. When he arrived in 2007, Milwaukee generated less than $500 million in revenue. When he leaves for the parent company, Milwaukee's revenue is approximately $9.9 billion. He increases revenue by a factor of roughly 20 in 17 years. The growth is not accidental. Per Tektronic Industries' annual results for 2024, Milwaukee grew 11.6% in local currency in that single year alone, in an industry that considers 5% growth a strong year. The financial structure that makes this possible is significant. Tektronic Industries is publicly listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, with the Pudwill family holding approximately 25% of the shares. There is no private equity timeline. There is no debt load taken on to finance the acquisition that must be serviced by extracting cash from the business. There is a family-influenced conglomerate with a long-term orientation and the financial capacity to invest rather than extract. This is the opposite of the KKR Amstar transaction of 1984, where $52 million of equity supported $465 million of total purchase price, and the debt service of that structure was the first claim on Milwaukee's cash flows. This is patient, technically informed ownership with a multi-decade time horizon. Milwaukee now employs more than 5,500 people in the United States. Its Wisconsin workforce has grown from 900 employees in 2016 to more than 4,000 by 2025, backed by more than $420 million of Wisconsin capital investment. The brand that left Wisconsin manufacturing for Mississippi in 2004 is building Wisconsin again. The job site in 2025 looks different from the job site in 2005. The difference is visible in the color of the tools. Milwaukee red is everywhere. On new residential builds in Houston and Leeds and Melbourne, on commercial fit-outs in London and Chicago and Auckland, in the vans parked outside the sites, where pack-out cases are stacked 3 high and M18 batteries are charging 6 at a time on multi-port chargers. If you work in the MEP trades in the United Kingdom in 2025, the tools most likely on your belt are Milwaukee. If you work in residential electrical in the United States, same answer. If you work in plumbing in Australia, same answer. Milwaukee's expansion into the British market has been deliberate and sustained. The company has built a training hub in the United Kingdom, a carbon-neutral facility running approximately 300 tradespeople per year through training programs. The message is investment in the British trades. The competition, particularly DeWalt, does not stand still. DeWalt's FlexVolt platform allows a single battery to power both 20-volt max tools and 60-volt tools, giving the platform reach into larger equipment without requiring a separate heavy equipment tier. FlexVolt is a serious innovation, and it has serious professional users. But the trades that define Milwaukee's core, the electricians, the plumbers, the HVAC technicians, the mechanical contractors, these are trades where Milwaukee has built category-specific tools that DeWalt has not matched. An M12 copper tubing cutter, an M18 press tool for push-fit plumbing connections, an M18 cable crimper, an M18 conduit bender. These are not general-purpose tools. They are specifically engineered for specific operations in specific trades. A plumber who has an M18 press tool and an M18 pipe threader does not evaluate a DeWalt drill on its own merits and then switch platforms. He evaluates the entire ecosystem available to him on DeWalt's platform against the entire ecosystem available on Milwaukee's, and the answer, in his specific trade, is not close. If you have worked in the MEP trades, if you have run conduit or pressed fittings or pulled wire, and you have experience with what Milwaukee's platform has built over the last 15 years, drop a comment below. Tell us which tools changed the way you work, and when you first crossed over from whatever you were using before. The story we can tell with words and facts is not the same as the story you can tell from the job site. We want to hear it. There is a complication in Milwaukee's story that the brand does not advertise. In 2023, the United States Congressional Executive Commission on China sends a letter to the group president of Milwaukee Tool, signed by Senator Jeff Merkley and Representative Chris Smith. It raises allegations of forced labor in the manufacture of Milwaukee Tool products in China. Specifically, it references the account of a Taiwanese man who spent nearly 5 years in a prison in Hunan province, and states that prisoners were forced to produce Milwaukee Tool gloves for approximately 48 cents per day. Milwaukee responds that it found no evidence of forced labor in authorized products. By October 2023, Milwaukee representatives are telling congressional offices that the company discovered multiple examples of counterfeit Milwaukee gloves originating in China, and that it has cut ties with the glove manufacturer in question. Whether counterfeit production fully accounts for the allegations is a question the available evidence does not resolve. What can be said is this: the history is in the record, the congressional letter is in the record, Milwaukee's response is in the record. A brand with Milwaukee's scale, manufacturing across China, Vietnam, Mexico, Germany, and the United States, operates across supply chains of enormous complexity, and complexity creates risk. The record does not disappear because the company has continued to grow. The question of American manufacture is also worth addressing plainly. Milwaukee markets an American identity built on Wisconsin jobs and domestic investment. That investment is real. The Wisconsin workforce expansion is real. The R&D spending is real. Milwaukee also manufactures in China and Vietnam and Mexico, where most of its cordless tools are made. The domestic investment is not a substitution for offshore production. It is an addition to it. Both of them are in the record. Let us return to the workshop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The building where Albert Peterson built the first hole shooter in 1918 is gone. The factory that burned in 1923 is gone. The Amstar era is gone. The Merrill Lynch era is gone. The Atlas Copco era is gone. The brand remains. The Sawzall that Jerome Schnettler and Edward Risto introduced in 1951 is still in production in 2025. It has been refined and improved across 7 decades, but it is still recognizable as the same idea, a self-contained reciprocating mechanism for the tradesperson who needs to cut through whatever the wall contains. The name is still generic. It is still, in the trades, the word for the category it created. The whole hog is still in production. The electricians and plumbers who learned their trade from fathers or uncles who used the old whole hog still reach for the M18 version of it, because the geometry is right and the torque is right, and some tools earn a permanence that corporate transactions cannot touch. What has changed is the scale around those two products. Milwaukee is now part of a company generating nearly $15 billion per year. It contributes approximately $9.9 billion of that total, up 11.6% in local currency in 2024. It operates in more than 125 countries. It has a platform of more than 275 M18 tools, more than 100 M12 tools, and a growing MX Fuel heavy equipment range. It is not your grandfather's brand. It is the brand your grandfather used, rebuilt from the inside by a company that chose investment over extraction and turned a $500 million also ran into the most dominant professional power tool brand in the world. The conventional logic of corporate finance says this should not have happened. The brand had been sold 4 times in 30 years. The Wisconsin manufacturing base had been hollowed out. The market was dominated by DeWalt on the professional side and Makita internationally, and both had deep distribution networks and established professional user bases. Tektronix Industries ignored the conventional logic. They identified what the brand actually was, which was the tool of the MEP trades, the infrastructure trades, the people who build the systems inside the buildings. And they built a platform specifically designed to never let those people leave. The platform worked. The Sawzall is still on the job site every morning. The whole hog is still boring holes through studs. The M18 battery that charged overnight powers the first tool of the day, and the second, and the third, and the fourth. And in the afternoon, it goes back on the charger and starts again. That is the model. That is the moat. That is Milwaukee.